Welcome back to the channel, my friends. For weeks and months, the headlines have told us one story. Canada is the victim. We were told that 25% tariffs are unescapable. On top of that, 50% tariffs are just around the corner. That our economy is at the mercy of Washington. And that David simply has no stones for his slings. Canada seems to be the orange fascist gangster's favorite punching bag. But while the conman wallows himself into threatening Canada, he is missing the most important part of the Canada-US relationship. The Goliath across the border isn't just Canada's biggest customer. He is reliant on our resources. And right now, we've left the most critical levers wide open. Today, we are stopping the polite conversation. I rip the curtain wide open and we take a look at the nuclear options that Canadians from coast to coast to coast have been screaming for. From the $20 billion energy hammer to the off switch of the US power grid and the fertilizer trap that could starve a trade war before it even starts. Canada isn't just a neighbor, we are an engine. And it's time for the orange conman to understand what happens when David flips the switch. Today, I lay out this story in 5 parts. First, the dependency. The US reliance on Canadian resources. Second, the energy hammer. Third, the fertilizer trap. Who feeds the Goliath? Fourth, the off switch. Grid security as leverage. And 5, beyond the tit for tat. Canada's global pivot. So, let's get into the strategy that could change everything. Let's talk about who really needs who. The orange idiot loves to pretend that he holds all the cards. But folks, that is just smoke and mirror. Here's the raw truth. The United States depends on Canada for stuff they literally can't live without. I'm talking about the essentials that keeps American lights on, factories running, and food on the table. Let's start with crude oil and gas. Canada ships over 4 million barrels of oil south every single day. That's somewhere between 45 and 60% of all US crude imports. And natural gas, we supply about 1/10 of everything Americans burn to heat their homes and run their industries. Uranium and clean electricity, between 25 and 30% of the uranium that fuels American nuclear reactors comes from Canada. Without it, the nuclear fleet doesn't spin. Industrial metals, the US gets 65% of its primary aluminum from Canada. That's not just any metal. That's what builds the F-35 fighter jets, their missiles, and their naval ships. The Pentagon would literally close its doors without it. Iron and steel? Our markets are so tangled up together, you can't pull them apart. Raw metals cross the border multiple times before becoming American cars and heavy machinery. Then there's potash and critical minerals. Saskatchewan holds the world's biggest potash deposit, and American farmers rely on us for 85% of what they need to grow their crops. Without Canadian potash, there is no US farming. So, let me ask you again, who needs who? Now we turn this up a notch. This is where Canada can drop a hammer on Washington. The US refineries in the Midwest, they can't just switch to another supplier overnight. Those refineries were built for our oil. Right now, we are selling our oil at a discount because of pipeline constraints. We are practically giving it away to our American frenemies. But what if that changes? Here's the counterstrike. Instead of playing defense with tariffs, Canada could slap $10 to $15 per barrel export tax on energy going south. Do the math on that. That could generate over $20 billion annually for Canada. But here's the real kicker. It would force US gas and diesel prices to go through the roof. It flips the whole script. Instead of Canada being the needy neighbor, it becomes the dealer to feed its addicted customer. You want to know the true nuclear option? It's sitting in the ground in Saskatchewan. Potash is the stuff that makes crop grow. Without it, US farmers can produce their stuff. And here's the thing. Canada is the world's top producer, and America has nowhere else to turn. The US mines about 400,000 tons of potash domestically each year. But American farmers need another 5 million tons beyond that. Yeah, almost all of it comes from us. And before anyone says the US just mines more, let me burst that bubble very quickly. The US Fertilizer Institute says scaling up domestic production would take another 10 to 15 years. They don't have the deposits, they don't have the mines, and they definitely don't have the time. So imagine this. Canada redirects our potash exports to India, Europe, or another global partner instead of shipping it to Trump's America. What happens? American crop production drops, food prices surge, and suddenly Americans are paying way more at the grocery store. All because they started a fight they couldn't win. This isn't a tariff, this is self-defense. And it demonstrates that if Goliath wants trade war, he might have to fight it on an empty stomach. Now, let's talk about something that would really get Trump's America's attention. The power grid. The US Northeast and Midwest is relying heavily on clean Canadian hydroelectricity. We are talking about states like New York, Minnesota, and Maine that literally depend on us to keep their lights on. Doug Ford last year made that very clear. Here's the reality. Replacing the electricity the US buys from Canada would require building the equivalent of 9 Hoover dams. 9! That's not happening anytime soon, folks. And here's the play. Canada could simply say, you're doing maintenance, and throttle down exports, or impose a surcharge on every kilowatt hour going south. For places like Minnesota, where we supply 13% of their electricity, that's a nightmare scenario. The US grid is already strained. Coal plants are retiring, demand is growing, and new plants aren't coming online fast enough. One of our hot summers with reduced Canadian power, they can press the start button as long as they want. Their ACs won't do a thing. That's a blackout in Northeast American cities. And the best part, this is clean power. So it's hard for them to argue that's dirty or bad for the environment. Yeah, like they care anyways, right? It's just good, reliable Canadian energy that happens to be a huge bargaining chip. Alright, the last piece of the puzzle. And yes, this is the long game. But the real power move. We've been talking about hitting back. But here's the thing. Canada shouldn't just be fighting back, but continue to move forward as fast as we can. And I'm sure Mark Carney is doing exactly that. Canada is already signing new economic security partnerships with the EU, India, and other allies. And we are building our own supply chains, mining, processing, refining, and manufacturing right here at home. When those pieces click together, we stop being the middleman and start being the sovereign economic power. Imagine not needing to send our critical minerals to the US for processing. Imagine selling directly to allies instead, allies who actually respect us and don't threaten to annex us every other day. The US is in a clear trend of isolation, and Canada is finding new, more respectful partners. This isn't just retaliation, it's transformation. So, there you have it, folks. 5 ways Canada can go from a punching bag to a powerhouse. The orange moron thinks he has us cornered. Trump's America thinks we are the weak link. But the truth is, they've got more to lose than we do. We are their engine, their lights, their dinner plate. And it's about time we remind them about it. But let me be clear. In this context, I call the first 4 options of this video the nuclear options because it is what nukes are, a deterrent. No normal nuclear power would ever think of actually using its nuclear arsenal, and no smart adversary would ever make them do it. But we should make it clear to Trump's America that we have nukes, as outlined in this video, for the sake of a fair playing field. Because the headlines keep saying Canada is the victim. Well, I say it's time to flip the switch. We are David with a whole arsenal of lovely high-impact stones. So, what do you think? Are we ready to use those levers? Which one scares Washington the most? Drop a comment below and let the Europe Curious community know. And if this video gives you value, please click the like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Thanks for watching. I'm Wilfried Lemkuhler with Europe Curious, where we don't just repeat the daily headlines, but open the curtain so you can see for yourself what's really behind it. See you in the next one.